Everybody say it mean.
Who's that out there living the dream? Let's blow in the bean. Who's that still smoking all that green? Let's blow in the bean. Come on, y'all, let me hear you scream. Let's blow in the bean. Let's blow in the bean. Let's blow in the bean. Go.
Welcome back, everyone. We are a week out from, well, it's fight week. We definitely
International Fight Week.
We got a big weekend coming up. We're in between shows. We've definitely had a lot of stuff going on, and it was a good card. Just real quick, just because we didn't come to you before with the UFC card that I went 7 right, and then I got out of the 12 fights that we had or something like that. It wasn't due to controversy. We've had a ton of information come out from that fight, UFC.
I don't even
outside
know what
UFC.
I was.
I think you did pretty good. I thought you were like 9 or 10. I did make a couple switches. I switched Quinones from Gordon, and Gordon came in because he missed weight, so I switched to Quinones because he was bigger, looked fresher. Gordon finished him in the second round. And I didn't switch Fat Boy Johnny Hendricks, who missed weight at 185 pounds. What the hell is going on with Mr. Hendricks?
I have that on my list just alone.
Because we have to
talk about.
We have to talk about it. That's one of the main topics about what's going on with his career. I think personally, he's had a lifetime of wrestling, and we know that wrestlers have had to make weight. He's always been in that weight class, but he's built eating complexes because of food always being such a restricted item for him throughout his life. And I've seen a couple wrestlers balloon, like in the 300 and 400 pound range, because they're these balls of muscles that aren't burning off 3,000 calories all of a sudden. Now they're just wrestling every once in a while. Sometimes they get hurt and they get there. Sometimes they just retire because it's a lifelong thing. And sometimes their body tells them it's time to quit before their mind tells them that. Is that what's happening with Johnny Hendricks?
When was the last time you made weight?
Well, yeah, I believe
the first time.
Yeah, at 185, yes. And then he missed like 2 or 3 times prior to that. I think it's his 5th total, maybe 6th time he's missed weight.
Yeah, and he can't go any higher. Good night.
Yeah, no way. I mean,
I don't think he has the head for it anymore.
That's where I'm asking you exactly. Is it his?
I think he goes to the University of Michigan and coaches the wrestling team.
I think Oklahoma is where that's where he
wherever.
went. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
his alma mater.
I'm thinking of like he goes and
agree.
He gets a good paying job and coaches, because keep going up in weight's not good for his brain. Harder hits every time.
He's 5'8". As much as they say he's 5'9", he's 5'8", and he's barely pushing 5'8". He's just not that big of a guy. He's wide enough, but everything that we said, Tim Boesch is going to be a brawler. He's going to go in there and make it a grueling fight. Johnny Hendricks never really looked in that fight. He had an okay first round, and he looked out of it from missing weight.
That fight seemed easy to call to me. I was surprised that Tim Boesch was such an underdog.
Did you went up? Did you go with Boesch by the end of the? Yeah, great call. I still went with Hendricks' decision, and there was also a couple other fun facts that ended up happening. Do you know Felice Herring beat the living crap out of a woman? Justine Quiche. I know a lot of people were putting a lot of money on Quiche, and we both were on Herring's side.
We're team Felice. We've seen her grow and grow, and the post-fight presser hurt my feelings for her. It made me sad for her.
It was, and
I think she's a little cutie.
That's the interesting thing for me, because I feel like I've been outspoken and told people that she's specifically sold her sexiness to get more sponsors, even on the show selling bracelets and stuff. She was one of the first that was doing like lingerie kind of shoots with MMA gloves, where not too many other women were doing it, because she was pretty enough to. Like, it did work for her, and she's one of the few ones that can get away with that and has, where other people in the UFC can't, and they don't for whatever reason. But it was really touching, and poor Felice Herring, I hope she gets a better deal.
She looked good
after this. She looked
good, and I think she's moving right along.
So there was also a really fun upset with Clay Guida and Erich Koch. The wrestling came through on that. He did exactly what he did to Pettis in that fight. BJ Penn also ended up getting beat by Seaver. BJ Penn is should have never returned in my eyes. He should have left his legacy as it was, and this is
18 fights ago, or not that many, but
months ago.
no, at least 3 fights ago.
Oh yeah, it's been a little while, and hopefully he takes a step back and gets away from that. Remember how I was telling you about Reyes coming up and he's going to be a fun addition to the 205? Everyone's saying it now. With the type of striking that he had, he finished Christensen pretty early in that fight. With those kicks, just a 205er to be able to move like that. That was good. Vinatieri is somebody that I am not going to keep that I'm not as going to be confident in. I think he gave Miranda way too many shots, and a younger fighter is going to give Vettori much more trouble than that. I think that Miranda's age was playing against him, but looked way better than he should have compared to how he's looked before. So Vitor Miranda, as much of a hype tribune as I was before, I'm going to kind of pump the brakes on him a little bit and really study his next fight, because he's got really tough fights ahead.
He's still a baby. He's like, 23 years old?
Yeah, I totally agree, but there was instances in that fight where his sure athleticism took over in the fight, and it was not technique, and a younger fighter with a little bit more gas tank would have capitalized much more.
But the issue is there are no younger fighters with
That's
more
a good
gas
call.
tank.
It's a good call. Totally a good call.
He's a baby. I think he has a lot of room to grow, and Miranda, is a legend. He's an old dude. Maybe
He's been
not,
in it for I don't think he's a legend, but he's been in it for a long time.
Yeah.
He came out of the Brazil scene a lot. Earlier on in the night, did you happen a chance to get to see the Kimball versus Stansberry? I had Stansberry all over my DK. He fucking shit the bed for me.
Yeah.
He got standing hammer fisted.
Stansberry as well.
Evil Twin was all over Kimball. And Kimball's karate came into play, and he standing hammer fisted him after he caught him with a 1-2 right. Kimball looks like a dude that's down the street mowing his lawn with his shirt off out here in Florida. Like, Kimball does not look like a specific athletic beast, but has the credentials of lifelong martial artist.
Is he a Ginger Ninja?
He's more of an Amish outstanding what it would be an Amish acolyte. I think those actually contradict. I don't know. So Horcher, I'm also not gonna end up putting much money in. He couldn't finish Powell when that Powell guy should not be in the UFC too much anymore. So that was the post fight. Hopefully you guys made some good money off of that. Oh, the main event. How did I almost forget the most controversial event of the entire fight? Quick tap. That was underneath the neck. Technically, he was dead to rights, but we had
talked
seen
about
earlier.
all this. We didn't already?
Not on air. No. When this is all the post fight, I think we talked about it in passing a few times and tried to hold it off to get here because we didn't have that last podcast in between that dead weekend of fights. Even though there was tons of other fight stuff that we'll get to. So dead to rights on that choke. When Lee switched over to the Gable grip and went hand to hand, that's exactly what the right thing that Lee should have done. But we had seen, I know that Justin Kish was in a different rear naked choke and was able to get out of it. Chiesa did say he was pumping up for his neck. Mazzagatti is also a black belt. These guys are all black belts, and you got to let Mike Chiesa either go unconscious or tap. And because you didn't do that, I think that you didn't do your job as well as you could have. I know it's incredibly hard to be a ref in there, and things happen in seconds, but I would say that in a choke of that, the worst thing that's going to happen is he's going to pass out, and you're going to get him off of there within the 8 seconds, 10 seconds it takes to have brain damage.
Panicked.
I agree. He jumped in early, and people can say what they want.
And people can say it was going to go this way. It was going to. Well, was going to. And MMA
agreed.
does not matter at all. There are so many things that have happened in this sport, and they all happened within seconds. That's the whole point. Like within milliseconds.
Yep.
So you have to let that go. And a guy of Chiesa's nature, if anyone could have put a ton of pressure on their neck, brought their shoulders up all the way, if anyone could have done it, I mean, yeah, for 45 seconds. That was how much was on the clock, 30 seconds. I can hold my breath for that long.
I have rolled with
Easily.
black belts as well that have given me a full rear naked choke. All the way in. Hand behind the head and everything. Dead to rights. And guess what? Those guys ended up reversing me and almost breaking my arm. These guys are elite level. You gotta let this fight finish. It is for all the marbles. This is for blood. They're playing for keeps. Like, this isn't even a limb. What I don't understand is, like, if it's an elbow or a knee, I can see you saving the other athlete's career and saying, I just saved you 2 years of rehabilitation on that fucking leg. But with a choke, again, you have 10 seconds where you can hold that choke and they're not dead. They're just out. You don't cut, like, it's scary, but you can hold that for a while longer and there's no damage to the brain. So you can wait till he's out and then wake him up. It's usually around that 8 to 10 seconds.
The same as every other tap out
exactly.
in UFC history.
Exactly. And with this type of veteran of a ref, but this is also one of my worst refs. I absolutely hate every single fight Mazzagotti's ever been in. I've never been on his side just because he does very weird things. Also with, who's the commissioner? Colby something. What? Yeah, exactly. There's just, it's really...
Anyway.
We need to get more people out there. More refs out there.
Moving on. Not to beat a dead horse.
So, did you hear that Megan Anderson versus Christina Cyborg ended up falling out due to Anderson's personal issues?
Yes.
How unfortunate. They already got a replacement with the Invicta current champ, who is a bit older. Tanya Evinger. She's a rough woman who tried to kiss the announcer once. She said, I don't care, I'm just going to do it on the mic, and grab the announcer, who's a lady, and went to kiss her. And
I remember.
The cringiest moment in MMA. It's one of those. Yeah. That's who Cyborg's fighting next. She's a ginger ninja, and
she looks like a supermarket cashier. That's not anything against either side, but she doesn't look like a fighter. She looks like beep beep, paper or plastic.
She's somebody that you wouldn't know that you after a couple beers that she had, that's what she would release.
Oopsie.
That sounds like a Pat and Tanya Evinger interview I'm getting here
live on the show. That was my ode to Howard Stern. I was like, do I do this off mic? No, I guess not.
So, not as exciting of a fight for Christina Cyborg, but Evinger's like, guess what? She's in the UFC, so she doesn't give a fuck. She's like, I will fight whoever, just get me in the UFC. She's been saying it for years. It's just that she has a takedown, boring type of decision type of fight. That burp got her. Got her.
And I was just thinking what we were talking about, like this lady who's like a supermarket cashier was just picture paper, plastic, and then burping in your face like a cartoon.
Well, you know that she had 2 Budweisers at lunch.
Yeah, that's what it seems like. And like I could see the cartoon drawing of it, like just a normal family with her 2 kids leaving. Anyway, what else is going on?
So there was just, in this boxing world that we seem to be intermixed with, one of the supposed biggest fixes recently came in for Germy Horn versus Manny Pacquiao. I don't know if you watched any boxing or at least the highlights, but
it was awful.
Pacquiao was definitely winning that fight all the way around.
He won it by strikes. He won it by percentage.
He almost doubled his strikes almost.
Yeah, and attempted punches. His percentage was so much higher of landed punches. So it didn't, for every way that you score boxing, he should have won that fight. And it was a hometown kid. Where were they fighting out of? Were they in Vegas?
Oh, I couldn't tell you, but that's how much I care about boxing. It was outdoors somewhere. Maybe Nevada. I think it was Vegas, but it was an outdoor arena. It looked full. There's a lot of commissioners. I feel like there was even announcers telling Horn, the winner, saying, congratulations, but I thought you lost that fight. And a lot of other people saying the fix is in. And does MMA want to get involved with boxing when this bullshit's going on? we've known boxing was corrupt though since the mob days. Like, this isn't fucking brand new to us. Come on.
I feel like that is something Conor's taking into account. There's only one way Conor wins this fight, and it's not going to be by decision in Nevada State Commission.
You think head kick?
I think you could knock out Mayweather.
Woo! Did you see the footage that just came out of Mayweather doing the bag versus Conor?
I wish I could give a shout out. I just watched an amazing little YouTube video by a person who broke down the video Conor's released before all his fights.
Yeah.
And the first fight with Nate Diaz, he kept showing spinning kicks. The first fight, all his videos. And he didn't throw one spinning kick in the fight. He did every time Nate Diaz hunched, he gave it an uppercut. Every time Nate Diaz hunched, he gave it an uppercut. By the time in the end of the fourth round, when Nate Diaz finally figured out the timing of it, it was harmful for Conor. The next fight that Nate Diaz and Conor too, he puts up a whole bunch of videos of practicing my uppercut. He only threw one in the entire fight. He did all lower leg kicks. All freaking calf kicks, all calf kicks. Something he didn't ever show himself doing calf kicks, and that was the way he broke them down. Which is a good game plan against. So I feel like he's not. And would either fighter? I think it's kind of silly that would either fighter release videos of something they were actually working on.
Yes, especially in boxing, there's a history of this. Like, they even have media days, just like the countdowns, where they have supposed trainings, but then there's people like Anderson Silva and Floyd Mayweather at times that has had closed practices where they don't allow cameras in, they don't allow cell phones in, where it's secret topic stuff they go on. I could see Conor McGregor sandbagging supposedly that footage as well. I do think that he has the mind for it and that it's a very strategic thing to do.
Because the bag he was working on was an uppercut bag.
Yeah, exactly.
So I feel like if Floyd gets this idea that he's working on uppercuts, I think there's more danger I think he's going to beat up Floyd from the outside because Floyd tends to go to the ropes a lot. I watched a lot of Floyd's older fights too with MMA eyes. I know so much more about boxing in general. I've watched boxing my whole entire life, and you have two weapons in boxing.
Yep.
And knowing about that and watching it, it's so naive to take that into the mixed martial arts, but knowing everything I know about mixed martial arts with body movement now and lower and similar, I've noticed that Conor, even though their stance is different, Conor and Mayweather both, they have the very broad stances with their protective. They put that front leg forward to keep their top half of their body safe. There's a lot of similar styles with but why wouldn't you watch Floyd? Why, as any mixed martial art, as any combat sport, why wouldn't you watch Floyd to try to take that defensive mechanism? It would be awful for kicks. You kick right down with that Philly shell. You kick right down that front leg forward like that.
Supposedly there's a clause in their agreement that if there's anything other than a punch thrown at him, like a knee or whatever, like Mayweather gains a stand like 50% of whatever McGregor gets. So I think they have that covered in that specific thing. It could be sandbag footage. It could be a million other things. It's still a main topic. We're also talking about TMZ is putting video out on this. Like every organization, it is right around the corner. I love that they're doing it early because Conor's already talking about he's fighting in December.
And like if Floyd, I'm trying to look at Floyd too in ways that if he were an MMA star, take away a ground game, just if he were an MMA fighter, something you would take from him, which is similar to like a DJ maybe, is, wow, man, what head movement. Like if you train for the best and you take things from all the best guys, that just for him as a mixed martial artist, maybe the best head movement in mixed martial arts, like Floyd, where you would take it as any fighter and be like, wow, that's, you're elusive. And Conor does that too. Is it to the speed of Floyd? I looked at a lot of fights and Floyd's been hit a bunch. Like when I rewatched him with this idea.
Being a fighter, it's going to happen. Even if you're...
And some fights where the reach, like the fighters that didn't hit him at all, had been rocked by Floyd. I watched a lot of Floyd Prime fights, and then I watched Floyd in trouble for a lot of fights.
Yeah,
where I just think that I don't know. The more I'm not putting $1 on Floyd.
Do you think it's early still? If it happens, it has to happen early.
I don't think so, and I almost feel like the way McGregor works, because he's all about proving. He would rather it be later. He would rather save a little bit of his gas tank.
So supposedly there's a boxer or two that have come out there and said that they've recently sparred with Conor and that he's one of the best that they've ever seen. Have you seen those allegations out there?
No.
I couldn't tell you the boxer's name. It could be totally someone getting me with some clickbait stuff. But there's even on the Sonnen
people. I trolled clickbaited people on my account.
Just so you know.
Yeah.
Sonnen's Clayton is a boxing coach out of Portland, Oregon, who's trained champions on local scenes and stuff like that. And he specifically, as a boxer, thinks that Conor has a very stylistic, and this is a guy who's been a boxer his whole life, who says stylistically, southpaws and, Conor's bigger and fast. Conor's fast.
I just think the number one thing, and I've heard Floyd say it, like, I'm an older guy.
Yeah.
And he hits harder than anyone I've probably been in the ring with. And part of him, just to say it, because he always speaks honest at his press conference, Floyd's never been a guy that holds back. So part of it, I feel like, is he being honest about that? Is Conor really the first guy he's ever stared across from that he believes, whoa, that guy could beat me? Or does he look up to Conor and admire him at all, where he's like, he's a bad motherfucker? Or does he totally disregard him and think this is going to be an easy walkthrough and all of it's just building Conor up so it legitimizes his 50th win that much more? Those are the two. Like,
there's so many angles, but that's why this is perfect.
Beforehand, I can't wait. When are they going to meet up?
Well, they're supposed to be doing some sort of world tour that's all over Twitter. It's going to tell you they're going to do a couple press conferences here and there. It's all around the corner. I feel like Conor, because he is such a good boy with the UFC, that they're going to probably wait to really start to hit this until after this UFC Fight Week Expo that's going on, International Fight Week. So wow, I think that's when it's going to turn up and him and Mayweather are going to start hitting the ground, is because they really want to get into... UFC really wants to promote this next weekend coming up. There's a lot of good movement. You know what I do? Instead of a pay-per-view,
I put it on Showtime, and I do a special deal because they have their own Showtime Go type bullshit
streaming
plan.
service stuff.
And
yeah.
I buy some bomb-ass movies. I load my fucking Showtime package up. I put a special deal where people like, for $19.99, you can have Showtime for, 3 months.
Yeah.
And this fight's going to be on. It makes everybody get it and maybe want to keep it. Put your programming on there. Ta-da. I'm just trying to save $130 because that fight is going to be so expensive.
That's what they're saying. $100 to $120 or $30, right? For the fucking HD pay-per-view. What are they going to put on the undercard? Oh, Lobov calling out. Who did he call out today?
Is that real?
They could have got me. That could be all spoof shit, but I feel like Artem Lobov would easily be like, okay, I'm willing to box too. And the promotions, both of them will be like, oh, okay, let's do that. And Artem Lobov will get outboxed. He's gone out in many of his fights already.
If a UFC fighter is to actually go over and fight, who do you think, or top 2 people, do you think have the best chance of winning said boxing match?
In a boxing match against Floyd Mayweather?
Official boxing match. No, not Floyd. Just in general, who do you think could walk out of the sport of MMA and have the best chance? 2 people.
I would say Junior Dos Santos and probably Teixeira. They both have pretty good boxing.
I think they're
and Cody Garbrandt as well.
KO'd. My 2, Holly Holm, JJ. I think they could put a real
clinic boxing. Wasn't
Holly Holm's a boxing champion?
JJ's a good call.
And JJ, she's all.
Yeah, she could box you up without fucking throwing a kick.
And her last fight, she didn't throw hardly any elbows.
Yeah.
So it was all hands. It was all hands. She's handsy. That JJ's handsy. There's only one fighter well, maybe a few, but there's not very many fighters that I like more than JJ, but one of them is fighting on UFC 213.
Little Valentina in your life.
I can't. Have you watched the Embeddeds?
Yes, I've been there, of course.
Is she the most... She just has a very kind spirit. There's something so... I don't know if there's very many more people on Earth as grounded as she is.
I really hope that she actually sets a movement, because it is one of the rarer paths we're seeing in the world or of fighting. I feel like a lot of people, the narrative that I've seen or that I'm used to here in the United States is local boy out of New Mexico has been fighting out of New Mexico, now he's in the UFC and fights wherever else, but always lives, goes back to New Mexico, where she's always been
a nomad.
Exactly. Always training all the way around. Her team travels with her, but what's good with all of that is that they can go anywhere in the world and be like, same shit.
Tramps and thieves. She's a gypsy.
She's always ready to fight wherever she goes. So
did you see her how she had the pieces of culture of all the places that she loves?
Love it,
and works it into her life.
And her sister is with her as well. So it's not just her and her sister is elite kickboxer.
And I like how her coach is like, I didn't know this about her, and I felt like I knew a lot of information about the Shevchenko sisters. How many things she's been a champion in.
Yeah.
I thought it was just Muay Thai.
Lifelong martial artists.
And then UFC, but judo, karate, like I didn't even know the extent of...
It's a lifestyle for them.
Yeah.
It's a complete
and it's
lifestyle.
pretty beautiful lifestyle.
It is. The interesting thing is how she did it with traveling around the world, and the American way of doing it is the Northcutt family. Did you see that Sage Northcutt at LFA? His sister, I don't know.
Is he at Alpha Male right now?
I'm not sure if he is right now. I think he's been there, but I don't know if he is right now.
There. I feel like he's going to be a new member of Alpha Male.
That's
They're
right.
trying to afford him right now.
I have seen Twitter posts of him at Alpha Male, but he's been jumping around to a bunch of camps because he went and helped Woodley, and he went to TriStar, and his dad. People have gotten in beefs with him, but.
Did you, with the, real quick to go back,
right.
The Shevchenko Nunes, I found it interesting that Nunes, and she was with Arlovsky, what's her partner's name?
Astronaut?
Astronaut.
Nina?
And they were talking about how an Astronaut is like, we saw Shevchenko climb back up the ranks, and we knew we were going to have to fight her again. And we've been training for her. And Nunes says, I've been training for Shevchenko since the fight with Shevchenko. Like, she
knows who's the number 2 bitch in there.
Yeah,
or
like
number
she has
1.
a fear, and she tried to get into a head game with her, but I don't think, and how I like Shevchenko, she's like, and I not fight with words. I respect my opponent, and when she put her hand on me and that, I'm going to give her 10,000 times more of that inside the octagon. Yeah,
I fucking love that shit.
I just like her karma of things, and she is a slow starter.
Yeah.
Shevchenko's a slow starter in a 5-round
That's
fight.
Muay Thai. That's fight people. In professions like this, in boxing, all these other sports that are niched into whatever style they are, most of them are slow starts. Most of them is jabbing at each other, kicking slowly, getting your distance, and then both of you figure each other out by that 12th round, and you're supposed to go at it. So
and I think Nunes had a little bit of fear of Shevchenko. She
Yeah.
didn't say Ron, but if you look at Nunes' last win, and not to take away anything from the legends that these women are, because I fucking love them, but Ronda Rousey and Miesha Tate, as far as what we see now in this category of women, are not 2 people you would necessarily bet on in the octagon.
So we regularly talk about this.
Then, did you see, like, remember back to the Kat Zingano Amanda Nunes fight? I think this fight's going to go very similar to that. And I think that Shevchenko ends up on top and elbows to the... That was a brutal fight. I forgot. I thought Amanda Nunes was like pretty undefeated. Like, I forgot about her early career because she came up during the time of these legends, these Miesha Tates.
Right.
But she never got to meet either of those 2 women until she did.
And they were later on
because
in their
she's
careers.
new breed. Nunes is new breed. I respect the shit out of her. I think she's the second best woman in the division.
That's what I was about to get to. As much as we're seeing the women's division, how we regularly talk about it, it's moving 4 times as fast as the male's division because they can rest on the laurel or learn from all of the men's fights already. And there's just a lot of learning curve that they don't have to get behind. So that's happening in their legends. We're talking about Miesha Tate and Ronda Rousey as these stepped off figures, and it was not long ago. And
it was like 6 months ago.
Exactly. But that's how quickly the women's division.
All of a sudden, they're the Chuck Liddell.
Yes, exactly.
The Tito Ortiz of. They should go fight in Bellator.
Yeah. So, I'm loving all of the embeddeds and countdown. The countdown already came out as well.
And there's the other Romero and Whitaker.
That's gonna be a fun fight.
Romero! Bisbing!
So
I love you, Ma! He's so funny.
He is. I love watching Yo Romero.
He's like my favorite villain on UFC, but it's like a heel, like, no gay Jesus America.
It's him though. It's just him, and that's why he's not trying to be a bad guy.
Honesty.
Exactly. Exactly.
As long as he doesn't get violent about it and just keeps it in the octagon, I will pay for a Yoel Romero Whitaker pay-per-view. I think it's a great card.
Oh, it's an amazing card.
The card after it though is like this huge, enormous oak. Just in the, like, all of a sudden, this is this little pine tree just getting swallowed with 214 behind it, looking toward Jones Cormier Cowboy.
That was on. I thought it was called off.
That's going to be on 214.
But I thought it was just called off. I thought
it was supposed to be on 213, but it got canceled because Cerrone's blood order. So they had to set it back to 214.
Oh, okay.
So now it's on the Cormier Jones card.
Even better. That's even better.
Yeah, that's
even better.
Like, that's what I think is happening.
Okay.
You can tweet us at Lesbo and the Bean if we're wrong.
Did you see the Machida gif of him peeing in a cup supposedly and then going and giving it to Verdum to drink for the fight? Did you see that thing? Because Machida has not gotten caught. When they did a countdown show for him early in his career, he came out of the bathroom with a pee cup, and there's boxers. I think Marquez, the boxer, at like $1.35 would drink his own pee, and there's a lot of people that believe it's beneficial. I'm just putting it on the record. I do not think it's beneficial. I will never drink my own pee and
never say never.
Good point. Good point.
Not because you
not
want
intentionally.
To.
Exactly.
You end up in like 127 hours or something, and a rock falls on your arm.
Oh, good call. I would totally. If I was in a desert situation and it was survival, agreed. I would have to do what I needed to do. It wouldn't be fun though.
If you're in need.
But So, where were we even with
Whitaker, Yoel Romero peeing in a cup?
Oh, Machida peeing in a cup.
Yeah.
Them making fun of him and stuff. Other universe in the MMA universe before we get, because that weekend we got 2 fights coming up, because before the 213 we got a finale show.
Take a bathroom break, people, if you need to. You can feel free to pause. It's going to be a long one. What?
The other topic? Any other topics that you might have not hit on?
What
before
about
we get
Connor saying that he, after this fight, he pictures fighting Khabib in Russia in
Oh
December.
my God! Well, I forgot about that. Dana came out and said it himself, right? Like, God damn, you gotta love that shit. That's why.
Does Khabib deserve that shot over Tony Ferguson?
I would agree with that. I would.
He beats Michael Johnson and gets the fight for the belt, essentially. And look at Tony Ferguson, the people he's crawled through.
I totally agree. Totally agree, and I think that Tony Ferguson might be fighting Kevin Lee soon because of their whole post-fight interview that happened. But
what weight class? Aren't they different weight classes?
No, $155, 155.
Lee's 155. I thought he was 145.
He moved up.
That's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
I'm interested a little bit in that.
Because of the post-fight talk, it was a really good post-fight interview that turned into just 2 fighters being like, oh, I'll take that fight. Get out of here. Either way, with the Conor and the Khabib, I think Tony deserves it. But where the money's to be made is Khabib. Khabib is a mega sellout in Russia. Like, he can bring in...
I don't even think he's top 10 sports stars in Russia.
Really? I thought that it was proven that he's up there.
I don't even think he is. I feel like if you take tennis stars and gymnasts and...
Really?
Yeah, I don't even think he's...
I thought he had a big contingency in, like, that was some of the sway power that Dana had gotten to a couple times was...
But I think he just went... It has... UFC's never been in Russia, right?
Yeah, they have been.
Oh, I didn't think
I
they
think
had
they
a
have
TV
been.
deal there.
Yeah. I thought that they had been to Russia
Send us
once,
the
maybe
answers to
once.
this.
I think it was Moscow or something like that. But I think it's only been once or twice.
We need our own... We need somebody to pull up these facts while we ramble on.
A stat cat.
Maybe why... Yeah. Maybe... I know. We maybe open our Twitter. Oh, yeah, we're not live. Never mind. It won't mean anything right now.
True.
So one thing, I love Tony Ferguson inside the octagon. I think he's beautiful to watch. Like, if mixed martial arts is an art, he's one of those guys that I think, wow, what an artist. He is so fucking corny outside the octagon.
Agreed.
He is so corny. He makes me uncomfortable. I do think he handled himself so well and appropriately with
Lee
after the fight. I do think he brought it back in and
Yep.
kept a professional demeanor even though the fighter got hot-headed. But he just seems corny, but he seems like when you're that kind of any kind of genius in anything, you're a little off. He's like that. Yes. And I guess that's it. We can get into these cards.
Oh, there was actually, real quick, the Bellator weekend that was also right before the last fight card. It was just their pay-per-view. It ended up having Bader, Phil Davis on it, which was incredibly boring. But it ended up having a couple really big underdogs come through. Connor's boy, Gallagher, supposedly is the new star, and he's a kid that has a big backstory with not Krav Maga, whoever his goddamn coach is. Who's Connor's coach?
Oh my gosh, Kavanaugh.
And he apparently, this Gallagher kid, lived with him when he was 15, dropped out of school, and has been training MMA ever since, and now he's in Bellator. But then there was the Michael Chandler versus Primus. That was, I believe, a minus 800, minus 600 for Michael Chandler, and he was injured. Did you see all the tweets about his ankle turning underneath him and him falling over?
Yes, I did. I actually watched part of the card. It was the first Bellator card I ever watched.
Oh, I watch it all.
It was like... I
it
knew
was
you
good?
would.
Yeah,
Of course,
exactly.
of course.
Right.
But it was...
Machida versus Gallagher was okay. That was fun.
Yeah, and...
Michael Chandler versus Primus was that ankle was like... Oh, and then they...
Twice!
Like, it was more than twice, and they pulled the stool out from under him.
I saw that too!
Oh, poor fucking guy.
Oh my god.
And I think that they did call
you know
the
what
fight.
sound that it made when he hit the floor? Douche.
Oh, the commission.
It was the douchiest move
It
to
totally
pull a
was.
stool out from a fighter while they're... Oh my
I think Ariel on the MMA Hour said it best because I saw it. As soon as he falls, the doctor looks back at him, sees him on the ground, and waves his hands and calls the fight off. And I think that was when the doctor said, this guy can't even stand up, not seeing him have
Get
the
the
stool
stool.
pulled out from under him. And Ariel,
Damn.
I noticed that. You can look back at it. The doctor looks back as soon as he's on the ground. And even when Chandler stands up, he can't stand on that foot. It's injury. Primus has come out on the MMA Hour as well and said, no, we attacked for that point. You can look it up. There's two nerves, and there is two nerves on the outside of your calf / side of your bone there. And you can see on the first couple kicks that Primus lands, they are beautiful where Primus, he puts all of his weight into it, and it was, so essentially it turned it into a numb, like if you fall asleep on your foot and then you can't stand up and you roll your ankle and you fall and get popcorn everywhere and then you have to vacuum at 3 a.m. Like, if that's what was happening to Chandler, and they all thought it was broken, but apparently he just has soft tissue damage, like just rolled his ankle because he couldn't, his nerve endings were misfiring and he had no stability over his foot. Interesting.
So good thing he's not all broken up.
Yeah, he's going to be able to fight soon enough.
All right. Fight week.
We are busy with 2 fights coming up Friday and Saturday.
So what's the Friday card all about? Can we pull up the tap?
Let's
pull up the tap. Tapology.com.
Woo-hoo.
That was not a commercial.
We have the Ultimate Fighter Finale 25 coming to you on Fight Pass. It's going to be exclusively on Fight Pass. It's going to be headlined by Justin Gaethje versus Michael Johnson. That's a good... Justin Gaethje's coming in as a former challenge or WSOF champion against Michael Johnson, who's a top 5 guy. And that's going to be a striking clinic. That's going to be by Todd Grisham is going to announce it with Brian Stan. And in Nevada. Yeah, these are all going to be at the International Fight Week, July 7th. So, have you picked your fights for this card, or we just want to start from the bottom up? We're going to get super deep into it, or?
Yeah, let's do it.
I definitely have a couple of my picks already. This is going to be a shorter fight night. This is only going to be 10 bouts. And there is going to be a couple people that there's too many fights to look into, too much good stuff to get into, and they're not necessarily the easiest to pick right off the top, so we're just going to get to the good ones as we go along.
Yeah, sorry, I'm trying to pull up I can't figure out how to pull up that card to do my picks on it.
Okay, well...
But feel free to dive in. I can sing some elevator music, whatever.
I got you. We're going to start off the day on Friday with Tecia Torres versus Juliana Lima. Tecia Torres has definitely come off of the show. She's the kickboxer. She has 50 takedowns. Girlfriend is Raquel Pennington, who just retweeted us. Thank you very much, Raquel Pennington.
Rocky.
So Torres, we know she's the tornado for a reason. She's got incredible gas tank. She's definitely a bit shorter for the division, but she makes up for it with tenacity. She can accumulate TKOs, but it's usually death by accumulation or 1,000 cuts. She doesn't necessarily have too much power, but she's been at the top of the heap since she came off of that show. She's been a perennial contender, and you can easily see why. She's a heavy favorite, and I can easily see why. All the way around, I feel like she's a better fighter than Juliana Lima. Lima is 35 years old, being 4 inches taller and having a 4.5-inch reach advantage. I just think that that Lima is much slower. Her ground game is definitely where she shines, but she has to get Torres to the ground, and Torres has only gotten better being an American top team, practicing with people.
Couldn't agree more.
That are just going to bring her to that next level, and I think Tecia Torres...
She's training right now in her weight division with Astronaut, and we just saw her, who is with Nunes. We just saw her come off an amazing victory. I think Ticia's looked better since she's been with the team, and I also think for when you see a Miesha Tate and her man's a Brian Calloway, that she's a great woman because of having that. It's a lifestyle. So I feel like for Tecia Torres to have Rocky as a partner, even the emotional support during cutting weight beforehand.
They know it all together.
I just think the American top team women right now, and I want to say they're unbeatable right now, but I don't want to say that because...
Crazy if things are happening.
Hashtag Team Bullet. Hashtag Team Bullet. But right now, I'm hoping Tecia Torres sucks all that momentum out of the American top team women's side, and I want to see her win. I agree with you here.
Yeah, this is a decision. Maybe a TKO later on in the 3rd round for Torres, but this might be a DK play for me just because Tecia Torres does throw so many punches that I could see her getting a decision, but just having a really high output. The lines aren't out for that yet, so we can only make assumptions. And I feel like we did that with our other breakdown show, and we were so on a lot of those lines prior to those lines coming out. They came out like a day after our show hit, but it just
Yeah, we thought everyone was an underdog that we were picking.
and they were all favorites, but like, God damn it.
Because we were going with what other professionals are picking. We're looking at who they're picking, assuming those are going to be the favorites, and then we're like, oh,
damn.
Oh, the anal list.
So, moving on to the next fight at 145 pounds, we have Gray Maynard versus Terento Ishihara. Ishihara is notorious for having a Twitter site that loves all of his bitches and hoes. And he had a shirt coming out. He's out of Alpha Male. He's been with Alpha Male and actually started an Alpha Male Japan scene. Ishihara has been back and forth, but he has lived in the States, so he knows the Vegas Strip and stuff. It's not a foreign ground for him or anything like that. Gray Maynard, we know what we're getting with Gray Maynard. He's a long-standing veteran. He's a gatekeeper, I think, to stay in. I feel like Maynard's barely hanging onto his job. He should have been out. To me, personally, I think that he should have stepped away already from the sport, just with the way he's not been able to take damage as of late in his career. He's coming off of a loss to Ryan Hall, where Ryan Hall...
It's better to just say has one win 11 months ago to Bruno.
In a decision.
And Fernando Bruno.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you much about Bruno as well. I feel like he was a short notice replacement in Brazil or something like that.
Ishihara was in a war his last fight.
Yeah, I think Ishihara just lost to...
Lobov,
yeah.
And he was in a war.
He... Also, Great Maynard.
We thought he was going to be chinny in that fight, and he actually looked really good.
Yeah, he was in trouble, and I like Ishihara. I'm definitely just going to lay out there just to say that with Maynard, he got knocked out by Diaz, who Diaz doesn't usually knock you out. He submits you. He rarely knocks people out, but that's to speak to the career that Gray Maynard has had. After those Frankie Edgar fights, Greg Maynard has never really been the same, where he got knocked out or was in inches from getting knocked out multiple times.
We're talking about this fight too long.
Okay.
Ishihara decision. We agree.
Ishihara decision.
Who cares about Gray Maynard?
I think that this could be a TKO as well for Ishihara. I have decision now, but I think it could be a TKO.
Agree with you there as well.
All right.
I have KO round 3.
Oh, nice.
I changed it when you were talking about Gray Maynard all that time. I'm like, Gray Maynard?
Exactly.
I can't even believe he's
that's what I gotta tell everyone. Like, his chin is pretty much shot. I don't know why I don't have decision. It was probably just because I picked real quick. But I do think that, talking myself through it on air here, that Ishihara has a high likelihood to get an overhand right. And Maynard, blocking it or not, just ching on. So, moving on to the next fight. At 135 pounds, we have your favorite.
Even. I did not know she still fought.
Oh, yeah. And
are they feeding her somebody, too?
No, they're trying to, but it's not going to work out. I do think that Lad is definitely not undersized. They're going to be the same size, but she's coming off of a controversial win. I believe she might have got submitted, choked right at the end of the fight and whatever.
She did submit your favorite name to say, Amanda Bobby Cooper.
Bobby Cooper?
Amanda Bobby Cooper.
In who was this, Lad?
Yes.
Definitely, I feel like she's coming off of the Invicta scene. I've liked Lad, and everything. If you've been listening to the show at any amount of time, you know how we feel about Jessica I. Definitely hasn't turned it up. Hasn't done what she needed to do.
She is a UFC caliber woman.
Exactly.
Fighter.
She needs to be in Invicta, and Lad needs to be in the UFC, and we're going to see that happen. But I do think it's going to be a decision. I'm going to stay away from this on DK all day, every day. I just think no gas tank for Jessica I. Rudimentary striking. Her wrestling is what she falls back on, and I think that Lad can reverse
Lesbians against drunk driving. Lesbians against drunk driving. Yeah, I don't know too much about Aspen Lad. What a rad name, though.
Yeah.
It could be the name of an 80s handsome man. I'm Aspen Lad. A weatherman. 80s weatherman. I'm Aspen Lad. But I just am anti-Jessica I. And usually my antis fall flat when I'm just anti them. And no, there's one time it did not. But it was two antis going up against each other. That might have been the... Anyway, moving on.
So moving on to the next fight at light heavyweight, 205 pounds. We have about between Ed Herman versus CB Dollaway. Two veterans of the sport. They've both been in for a long time. Ed Herman a bit longer, coming out of Portland. CB Dollaway coming off of a college wrestling career and also the TV show. Ed Herman has been win one, lose one for a long time now. Ed Herman's, we know what we're getting with him, a striker, okay takedown defense, okay wrestling. Always has had a bad gas tank. It's very rare that we've seen Ed Herman have a good gas tank. And the older he's getting, I'm assuming that that's not getting much better. He just has a lot of bumps and bruises. He's had a lot of injuries throughout his career. CB Dollaway is coming off of a 3-fight losing streak. So I think CB Dollaway is barely holding on in his career. Ed Herman being 36, CB Dollaway being 33. CB Dollaway last loss was a year, 6 months ago to Nate Marquardt. Nate Marquardt just lost a decision which he won against Vitor Belfort. So Nate Marquardt isn't quite as done as we've thought he was. And he got caught coming in to finish Marquardt because he hurt him. Do you remember that knockout for CB Dollaway? So CB was looking great in that fight, and I feel like he's going to come in and keep doing that against Herman, and I don't think Herman can take it anymore. I think Herman's on his way out of the UFC, but I've thought that for years already, and it just hasn't accumulated, but Herman's had a much lower caliber of fighter compared to CB Dollaway. I have CB Dollaway TKO round 1, going to have him everywhere.
Right now, I have Ed Herman TKO round 1. Oh, shit.
Yeah, please.
Dollaway cannot fight a Jinja.
Oh.
He has a bad record against Jinja fighters.
Okay.
I also think Ed Herman, I remember his last fight. I don't think he was looking bad in that fight, and he did get caught with a gnarly head kick. I think if you get head kicked, I remember actually I was like, cry love all day, and I don't think it was as easy as a fight as everyone thought it was going to be. I think Ed Herman has heavy hands. I think CB Dollaway is chinny. Ring rust is real. It's been almost a year and a half since his last fight. I think Ed Herman's a grimy old vet. I think he still has heavy hands. I think CB Dollaway gets clipped again. He gets blinded by the Jinja Ninja.
Ed Herman's last loss was, we were just saying, Krylov, who I have mixed feelings about Krylov, but then he beat Tim Bosch, knockout. We just saw Tim Bosch, what he did. Yes. So,
and if Derek Brunson, respectable,
beat Rafael Natal in one of the worst fights you're ever going to watch. Don't waste your time. Don't go back and watch that. Both of America, the world lost in that fight. Talis Leites, he's a top contender as well. Decision loss, like Ed Herman, he's been fighting beasts. I could see this going either way. This is a coin, but this is a finish either way.
Yeah, I will not have it all over my DraftKings. I'm just saying that I don't think it's going to be a decision fight. I think it's finished. It won't go to the third round. I have Herman KO round 1, so both of us are predicting a KO finish round 1.
Agreed.
But the opposite side of the coin.
So maybe the bet on this is under 2.5 rounds. But there's always a prop bet for that.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to the next fight. We have a strawweight bout at 115 pounds between Angela Hill and Ashleigh Yoder. Angela Hill coming off of the show. Her last loss of a 4-fight winning streak from Invicta. She had lost her contract in the UFC. Got a contract with Invicta. Became the champion there. Gotten better. She came back into the UFC against Jessica Andrade, and actually Jessica Andrade is in the top 3 contenders in the division right now.
I agree. She just went 5 rounds of JJ.
So the
moving
loss
forward, like
Angela Hill looked really good, but the pressure really got to her in that. And the real question is, can Ashleigh Yoder bring the pressure like Andrade? And I don't think that that's going to happen. And I think that Hill has looked much better in her striking, much better ankles and takedown defense, and I feel like Yoder's just gonna not win this. I got Hill decision.
Hill needs this fight.
Yeah.
Hill needs this fight. She has to get a win here to really make a name for herself, I think, and start crawling the ranks in this division. I think she really needs to go in, and we need to see the best Angela Hill we've ever seen. I, too, have Angela Hill decision. And Overkill Hill.
So, moving on to the next fight, we have Marcel Fortuna versus Jordan Johnson. Fortuna has had a few fights in the UFC, last win being over Anthony Hamilton, and a previous loss on the show to Corey Hendricks. And he's coming off of the Rafael Gracie gym, which we know a lot of good guys are coming out of there. Johnson's coming out of the MMA lab in Arizona. We have some definite other prospects out of there. Johnson's last win, he's on a 7-fight streak coming off of RFA, which the RFA guys haven't looked too bad, but his Johnson last win was against Henrique de Silva in a decision. And if you remember that fight, it was two of those noodle hand guys, like, falling on top of each other.
Fats.
It was very sloppy of exchanges that they were having. And if Fortuna, I think, can get Johnson in that type of gas situation, which I think Fortuna might be able to. I got Fortuna in this fight as a decision. I don't feel too confident in this. I haven't done enough research, but...
Well...
I think... Oh, he's an underdog on the tap.
I have Fortuna KO round 2. I think it's going to take him around to feel him out, but I remember Jordan Johnson and his fat lazy. He just couldn't deal with the pressure.
Against De Silva.
And Fortuna, one thing that we do see with these bigger guys, especially if they go through the tough house, they have better cardio. And with these big guys, that's what it's coming down to, unless they're getting sloppily clipped. Unless I feel like people must think something I don't know.
That's what I did look back at Johnson's fight. I remember against Henrique because, that guy.
I don't know what it is too. I tend to pick Fortuna in fights.
Yeah, I feel like I've been picking him as well.
So I'm going to stay with him. So he's a weird underdog right now. I got Fortuna KO round 2, and it might move up to round 1. So,
Yeah, I think that's definitely a good call.
And moving on.
We got
that
a little
was my
bit
horn intro for a Spartan.
Oh, I was going to say, was that your Perp Plus intro? So, we bring in the hair against Brad Tavares, Jimmy Manuel's little cousin. I don't know if that he is, I'm just saying. Because they're both from the island. I think Brad Tavares has looked real good. We know what we're getting with Thuridoa. I mean, both of these guys, they've been in this sport for long enough. They're both... I can't say they're prospects. They're both contenders now. Thuridoa's barely starting to crack into that top 15-ish range, but he's had enough wins.
This is his roughest fight to me. Stylistically, to me, this is a really hard fight for him.
I agree. I think that Brad Tavares brings the heat, and he knows how to fight. Brad Tavares has been fighting the elite guys for a long time. Brad Tavares' biggest flaw has been his cardio to me.
Which we know Elias Thuridoa has good cardio.
Yes. But I do feel like Thuridoa can get out grappled at times.
He has great takedown defense.
He does. His legs.
I don't know the numbers right now, but he has a good sprawl. He's strong.
Yeah,
I think he has a really good takedown defense.
Throws tons of kicks, and I feel like Brad Tavares can grab a kick and go down for a takedown.
The best shot here Elias has of winning is a knockout. It has to stay standing up.
I think he can win the decision, though, because of his activity.
If you look at who Tavares has lost to recently, though, it's a guy who I really believe will be the next champion of the division. So
Whitaker in punches, and then he won a decision against Marquardt, and he lost prior to that to Tim Bosch in a comeback, and then Yoel Romero in a decision. He decisioned Yoel Romero.
I just think his caliber of fights have been higher.
Brad Tavares or Thuridoa?
Tavares.
I think Tavares as well. He's been fighting essentially top 5, top 10 guys, where Thuridoa
I want to see Elias change camps here soon.
I think that it would benefit him. He's on that part of the world where he can just get on a highway and drive straight down. He's got no record. He's a freaking good guy. He's kept his nose clean. He's been at TriStar. No,
I love it. You know I'm a
he's not
Team
a TriStar.
Spartan. I did not like the way he looked in his last fight.
I know. There's something about...
He looked different to me. He used to look big on top and big on the bottom. He looked like, I don't know, maybe he was sick or something. He just looked like washed. Maybe it was hard weight cut or something. It just looked like a different him in the ring. He looked a little sluggish.
I agree with that.
I know he
remember
won.
that.
I know he won.
I gotta think of that Sam Alvey fight every time.
And I remember the last Brad Tavares fight, and I remember thinking how good he looked in his last fight. And gosh, I can't go against the Spartan. It's so hard for me to bet against him.
That's a tough call. I think
I'm going to go with Elias decision.
I'm going with Elias only because of the volume, but I do think that I could switch this fight by the end of the week, and because this is a much closer fight than people are giving it credit. Maybe they're not. Maybe there's a coin flip of a fight, but
I need to watch weigh-ins.
Yeah,
I really need to watch weigh-ins.
I agree with that. See how Theodore looks. Brad
Tavares
Tavares always is jacked.
I will say this. Either way, this is like a gate that these guys are kicking through. The guy who wins this fight is, I mean, they're already on the main card. The guy who wins this fight could be on a pay-per-view, like moves up, not just in the rankings, but this is a attention-seeking fight. I think it's gonna be a great fight.
I totally agree.
I think maybe the heat that Brad Tavares, Elias, I'm wanting to think of him more as a counter striker, and that's why, like the Sam Alvey fight and his fight was so boring because they both laid back the entire time waiting for the other to engage. With Brad Tavares,
it walked forward.
Yeah. Okay, I'm feeling more confident about Thurdo. Like, maybe we could see him catch him. Maybe we're going to see that head kick land a beautiful, that he throws the kicks the whole time. Yeah. Staying with the Spartan. Ride or die. Team Spartan.
So, moving on to the next fight, we have a light heavyweight bout at 205 pounds between Steve Bose versus Jared Cannonier. These guys are still both relatively new. Bose came into the UFC with a brutal head kick to Thiago Santos. I specifically called that being a head kick, and it happened. But that's Bose's last loss. Bose's come off of a 2-fight win streak since then, beating James Tehuna in a TKO win, and then beating Sean O'Connell in a decision. But this is arguably one of the fights of the years last year. You remember the Bose O'Connell
remember
fight.
I feel like I remember us talking about this fight back then. But we weren't even recording yet, were we? Like, I remember
we might have been we might have started recording.
I feel like you had O'Connell and I had Bose.
Something
and
like
I feel like, was it Bose's first fight in the UFC?
No, it was his third.
His third?
It was his third. He lost to Thiago Santos.
I just feel like I'm a Bose fan. I just feel like I want to look up my record on when I like Bose. I feel like I went against him the first time.
Yep.
And then I'm like, oh shit.
Bose's chin definitely held up ever since his knockout. I've been against Bose, kind of thinking that he's been older. He's also a pro that came over from hockey. He had a full professional career, and we both know hockey's one of the toughest sports out there. I know many trainers or physical therapists that have said that there's not one hockey game that you go through where you don't see a catastrophic injury, where it's like dislocated joints, like broken ankles, crazy stuff happens regularly.
Cannonier, no gas tank, and his 2 losses are against 2 of my least favorite fucking guys.
So Cannonier against Glover Teixeira lost in a decision.
Not that I dislike Glover,
but
not
that's arguable.
But Chinny.
That's arguable.
Chinny.
I think that's arguable. I think that Teixeira, you could give it. That could be a split decision.
JDS is up there with Teixeira to me. Like, I feel like they're in the same vein of, like, not that I dislike them. They are legends. I think they're past their friggin' prime.
Kudalaba, who just murdered Henrique, but you know what we think of Henrique, so Cannonier went to decision.
And Kudalaba, I like him because I think he's an outside fun personality.
Yeah.
But inside the octagon, he's really aggressive and stuff. There's a lot of holes in his game that I see.
I think Cannonier has good boxing. It's the first time Cannonier is going to be a full-time fighter. He fought every single one of these previous bouts.
I think Bose's a boxer, isn't he?
No, he was a former hockey player who's now full-time MMA.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But Cannonier was a former, I believe, TSA agent and working either TSA or UPS, something like that, working at an airport in Alaska, but maybe mail service. Had a full-time job and fought in the UFC 4 fights. This is the first time that he has ever fought without a full-time job, and he's full-time fighting.
Where does he fight? What gym?
Alaska, Garage, Alaska, with the last Alaskan bear, Kodiak bears that he had to fight in the woods. I mean, he's not coming out
I
of
like
the camp,
Cannonier.
but I think Cannonier has shown me that he has good boxing. A loss of decision to Glover Teixeira. Teixeira will beat a lot of people. I think Teixeira will knock a lot of people out or finish them specifically. So a decision to him, which is arguable in my eyes. Cannonier definitely gassed a whole lot more. Bose does have the gas tank to put him there. We saw it with the O'Connell fight. This is going to be a fun fight. This is going to be a striking battle. I think that this could be a finish, and I'm actually going to go with a finish. I'm a Bose hater. I hate Bose. I don't know why. That Canadian tan, don't trust tan Canadians.
What about the Spartans sometimes?
Uh-huh.
I have Bose KO round 3, and I think he's going to wear him out because of that cardio. I've seen Cannonier give up in fights. I've seen him win fights because he got the 2 first
Because
rounds
he was working
done.
at the TSA. He had a full-time job. He wasn't training full-time. Now he just started. But this is me also just making a point for my fighter. I'm not.
I'm going to stay away from this fight. I have Bose KO round 3. Moving on. Dayeski.
We have
Close.
a lightweight bout at 155 pounds. Mark Dayeski versus Derek Close. Close. Drakar, that's what it is. Nicknamed the Bone Crusher.
And the 90s Cologne. That's his nickname. Drakar 90s Cologne. Close.
He was on an interview I heard, and he would get it all the time for Christmas and birthday presents. And he never really liked it because I think it was like a local store. Like you could find it at any JCPenney or something like that. Drakar?
Yeah.
The cologne?
I think so. Yeah, I remember it was like high school boys.
I feel like I've gotten it as a gift and been like, I'm not going to wear that. Like,
You're like,
that's-
whoo!
Yeah, exactly.
That's strong.
Or I would put it on each side of my neck, underneath my armpits, in my back of my legs, on my crotch, on my back. Little much, but you're learning to be a young man.
He
so
bathed in it.
Oh, yeah. You didn't know what you're like, oh, I'm supposed to smell good, right? Well, when people can smell you from 5 feet away outside, not a good look. not a good smell. But Drakar barely won a decision against Jordan Powell. Drakar's coming off of the RFA scene. Dayeski coming off of 2 wins in the UFC. 1 decision against Perez, where he had to fight off a lot of takedowns. He has actually 3 fights in the UFC. TKOs in a couple of those. Those TKOs have been devastating. He hit Packlin with an overhand right. Turned him into a dead body. I feel like we've been talking about Dayeski our entire podcast career as well. It was early that he came in and we were on bumpers talking about him.
Yeah, I remember. Was it Dan Hendo Bisping?
I think something like that, yeah. I think that's a good call. That's exactly what it was. So, I think that Dayeski is definitely coming into his own, and they're just kind of giving him someone who isn't elite anywhere, is going to try to get takedowns, and we've seen people do that with Dayeski, and his takedown defense is good enough. I see a knockout accumulating in the second round for Dayeski. I got the Bone Crusher. I am going to put him on cards for DK.
Agree. KO round 2. I think he figures him out. I think this is a give me for Dayeski, actually. It's not because Drakar close. He's just not up to the caliber. I think they're waiting for this kid to explode. I think he's from a really good market, and he's an England hero.
Yep.
And that's a really good market for the UFC for when they have the cards there. Bisping's getting older. They're going to lose a lot of the appeal. And, I think that's why they keep certain people around to work the TV ratings and the pay-per-views and things like that. I think he has a great personality. He's amazing in the ring. I think we see him explode this fight. It could be move of the night, knockout of the night, something. He's going to get a bonus. Show bonus. Dayeski KO round 2. I agree with you all over my DK with them.
Oh, nice. I don't think that one's going to change too much, but the bet maybe the under or just the finish for Dayeski, but that's going to be high. I bet you the prop
They
bet.
should have a show bonus prop bet.
Oh, who gets the show bonus?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure there's a money line out there. The thing that sucks with, I use Bovada specifically, is that they have the worst lines, but they're the most credible source. Like, there's a lot of people that have told me that other agencies just have compromised their credit card information. So, yeah, that's why I use Bovada. But their lines suck. But
Moving on to the main event.
Main event of the night. This is the finale, but I don't know any of the finale fights. I've been watching the Redemption show. What finale are we talking about here? Unless they're waiting to put them on? Because it should be...
Well, I think it's off. Did Cody hurt himself and all that stuff delay the Ultimate Fighter House? I don't know what's going on. Yeah, no, honestly.
But the Ultimate Fighter House either way should be James Krause versus.
But usually isn't this a 3-fight weekend? But they had to bring it down to 2.
Yeah,
so maybe it threw off
going on because and then the week after
this should not be
it's on
called
a Sunday.
The finale.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense to me either way. This is a finale. We haven't talked about any of the finale fights. I haven't seen any of them come up. Maybe they're gonna throw them in early or into the weekend. We'll put out a tweet who we have on those guys, but it's definitely weird. The main event for this, either way, Justin Gaethje versus Michael Johnson. Justin Gaethje's making his debut from the WSOF. Comes in with wrestling credentials. Michael Johnson has some minor wrestling in high school, but was really been a kickboxer his whole career. Michael Johnson's been in the top 5 in the UFC. He's number 6 currently. Justin Gaethje is number 13th in the UFC. This is his debut, and he's ranked number 13th. I don't know if this is Tapology
The kid coming in with credentials.
So, if you've seen anything, I've told you about Gaethje for a long time. You gotta watch.
Mentioned him before he came in. You said, here's a kid that I hope comes to the UFC.
Exactly. We've been on his bandwagon. I've been on his bandwagon for a long time.
He has a cool name, spelled cool.
He fights like anybody you want to fight. He fights to get finished or finish, even though he says he has a technical ability to not do that, and he does, because he gets in technical brawls, which I know is an oxymoron because it doesn't make sense, but he comes out with you with constant pressure. And if we've seen one thing with Michael Johnson, is that he will fold under pressure. Khabib got him with pressure. Most of his losses have come with pressure. What Michael Johnson does best is when he sits back, he can really start to pick his opponent apart because he gets into a sparring mode and he can really use his length well. He covers ground incredibly well. A great athlete, throws wonderful flying knees and kicks and punches. Incredibly explosive, and just training with elite fighters at Black Zillions. He's with all of those crew guys. Definitely heavy duty, but I think that Gaethje's pressure and leg kicks. Michael Johnson's also susceptible to leg kicks, and Justin Gaethje always throws some of the most brutal leg kicks you'll ever see.
100%.
Yeah, I definitely think that Gaethje is gonna take a beating because he always does, but Gaethje always is looking to win or lose at all costs. He has not lost at all in his 17 fights. And he's been in Fight of the Year contenders multiple times in the last years. Definitely look him up on YouTube. You will see nothing but highlights of him. The thing that's scary with Gaethje is that he sometimes puts himself in danger.
Takes one to give one.
Exactly. And sometimes he goes down and he just fucking wakes up and goes to his wrestling because that's his base and can get their guys to the ground. His ground game is also pretty elite. When he goes to the ground and wants to take it there. And
Michael Johnson is so prone to being submitted. So prone to being submitted when his gas tank gives up.
Yeah, exactly. When he gets overwhelmed, he does tend to wilt a little bit, and I think that this
I agree with you here. I'm going to say, though, I don't think it's a KO or a TKO, and if I could change it on here, I would. I think it's a doctor stoppage round 3. Woo! Gaethje will win the fight. I will not go all 5 rounds.
Dang, that
I'm changing it to round 4.
Wow, Doctor Stoppage specifically. If
round
there
3.
was a
Doctor Stoppage. That's a prop bet. Yeah. Doctor Stoppage this fight.
Do you think it's the leg kicks?
Leg kicks.
something happens to his knee
He's just
or-
limping too hard that he can't put pressure on the leg. The doctor's going to stop the fight. They're going to ask him in the corner to put pressure on it, and he's not going to be able to. You were just talking about the nerve damage from that. You were just talking about it. I think we see a doctor's stoppage in this fight, round 3 or 4. I'm going to leave it at round 3 right now, and we can move on to UFC 213.
This is Saturday night. This is a pay-per-view
Saturday
event.
in the park.
Ooh.
Wish it was the 4th of July.
Yeah.
Oh, it will be.
Happy birthday, America.
Celebrating my independence.
Yeah, which means having some brewskis and lighting some fireworks on fire. It's the American thing to do. Get people really drunk and give them things that might blow your hand off.
Yeah.
Sounds like a good time.
I wish Lesbo and the Bean, if there's any computer nerds out there, I think Lesbo and the Bean needs to make an app where people can make their picks. And I just want to stream. I've been through all of them. I've been through all of the apps where you can make your fighter picks. I just think they need a little more information, need to be a little cleaner running, and it needs to be in an app setting, not a full screen setting. It drives me crazy. I think DraftKings has done an amazing job at streamlining that. If there was a way that I could do it just for the fan that wasn't betting to organize everything, it would be kind of incredible. Anyways, hit us up. Moving on. 213.
213, also coming out of Vegas.
Shevchenko Nunes
is the main event. We've been talking about this fight for a long time. We've had the work up, the build up of that summer tour is now coming to fruition.
We've been Team Bullet since
she got punched. No, since prior to her getting punched.
I don't even know how long. Since over everybody else.
Since before there was cards being made of her. And
she's been my favorite female fighter for I don't even know how long. I don't even know. Maybe it was like Ronda Rousey, and then when I got educated in the sport, she was my favorite female fighter. Then JJ.
Wow.
Over JJ.
I would say JJ first for me just because I was exposed to her much before Shevchenko.
The Bullet. Anyways,
the Bullet,
talk about
definitely.
the card. We'll work up to her.
We'll get there. So we definitely have a good ways to go. Exactly. So coming.
We're not bandwagon jumpers, Valentina.
Just so people know. We're definitely getting hot and heavy and deep into this number 2 for the weekend. We have James Bonovich versus Tevin Giles. Traven?
James Bochnovic versus Traven Giles.
The problem. The problem is his nickname, Giles.
He's too big to fight the answer.
So, he's definitely coming. They're starting off the night.
I don't know anything about these fighters.
Yeah, this is going to be a tough one. I think that we should definitely go through it quickly because...
I think stay away from this on your DraftKings unless you start here. This other guy's coming out of Bellator. He's all over the ground.
Exactly.
This other guy...
LFA Legacy are good organizations. RFA, Giles has... I mean, these are
young guy.
feeders. Ooh. And he's 9-0 versus...
I'm not liking the moderate favorite look on this. I'm liking the ground game of this crazy corn-fed guy out of Wisconsin.
They're both 24 and 28 for Bonovich versus and Giles is coming out of Elite MMA in Houston, Texas. I feel like there's someone else out of Elite MMA. I don't know where Bonovich is coming from, somewhere in Illinois, Chicago, but the Pettis brothers are out from out there. I got Giles' decision. I feel like he just comes out swinging a bit more. The ground game, the takedowns are going to be what Bonovich wants to use in these fights. But I'm staying away from this. I just haven't done enough research. I got Giles' decision that could move to a TKO. But
I think this is going to happen. He's a tall ass MF. I think he's going to jump in, and that's how he gets all his submissions because he's so tall he can get up and over guys. I don't even think it's about takedowns. I think he submits them and the guy falls. I think... and he's going to come in that crazy adrenaline. We see these guys from nowhere, and they're like, here's my shot, I have submission round 1, Vic. But I'm going to stay away from this first fight of the night. I always get these wrong. I'm starting to look at my... the way my bets go, the later the night goes on, the sharper my...
That's where it's easier for you to get it right.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good call if you see trends in the way that you do things.
So I would say just a good rule of thumb for y'all, stay away from my picks on this. I think you tend to do better. Not that you don't do good later in the night, but you tend to get the earlier fights, especially these first few. Or sometimes, you know what, it's just us going through it on air.
I agree with that, though. I talked my way through a couple of them where I'm like, oh, I got to switch this. But with these guys, there's so many new people on this card, and we went through so many fights that it is hard to just really stay up with everything going on top of...
And honestly, all these analysts and everything, they know just as much as we do about these fights.
We're all on the same fucking streaming sites. We're all on the same sources. So it's our opinions on things, and... Here we go.
We
with
need
the
to
next
get a
fight.
P.O. box. It was something I wrote down that we need to do for Lesbo and the Bean. We have to get a P.O. box.
Good to know. So we can be in.
Well, I don't know. If people send us shit, I'll put it in the background of our YouTube channel.
Oh, that's a good call.
Yeah, we can frame everything and make it look nice and just have a wall of frames.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, all sorts of shit. So anyways, we're going to be working on that.
Yeah, we'll be getting it together, the studio together.
Yeah, and it is coming together, you guys. We've had the busiest effing time.
Life.
Busiest time, but we're going to get more regular on schedule here. The studio's closer to the house, needless to say, and it won't be such a trek.
So here's another tricky one, speaking of which. We have a featherweight bout with 2 debuters. We have Cody Stamann versus...
Cody Stamann versus Terrion Ware.
So, 14-1.
Another Spartan versus the Fish.
Flash.
Dearborn, Michigan. He might be a Spartan Michigan top team because I think Michigan, East Lansing, what is that? Michigan State? They're the Spartans.
Oh, that
I
would
think
make
so.
sense.
They might be the Trojans or something. So if I'm wrong, I apologize.
It does happen multiple times where there is only so many nicknames, but I think that's where people can get creative.
I don't think there is so many nicknames.
Yeah.
I think there is an infinite amount of nicknames.
I
don't see like Tubby Tuba.
What did Corey Anderson? Did he used to be 25'8"?
Chewbacca.
25'8".
Yeah, I think there's so many different. You could be any
Bone
crazy
Crusher.
thing. The interior decorator.
The freelance artist. So these are both debuters. They both have had good careers. 17-4 for Ware. Flash. Ware's coming out of the United States. He's a moderate underdog at -250.
Tyrion, ready to wear. That's what his name should be, ready to.
Oh, that's
what they should kind of
play with it, like touchy-feely.
Stamen, like.
So.
Stamen Nana! Nickname Nana. And then they could do it on either side. I think we should start trying that with fighters from now on.
Giving them nicknames.
Especially if they don't have one, but... And then if one of them's really good and it gets us, we'll hashtag it.
Drummond Stamen. Got her.
Cody Drummond Stamen. The Drummond Stamen. We might even be saying it wrong. It's like
totally wrong.
Stamen.
So the Spartan.
What about Cody Stamos? That's not his name at all. Tyrion, Ware, Massachusetts.
Tyrion Tupper, where?
That's it. Tupper. Hashtag Tupper.
So I got the Spartan in this decision. Stay away from this. I just don't have enough of a read on these guys.
Agree.
Yeah.
No, I'm going to go with Stamen, punches. I'm guessing if he's Michigan and he's a wrestler, he has a good gas tank. The other guy won't be able to handle that. And so I'm going to go KO when the other guy gives up and is like, damn, this is some new shit. And he has heavy hands. He's been in the ring with some guys. He's going to get clipped in round 3.
Ooh.
So, Stom and KO round 3. I will too stay away from this fight.
Moving on to the next fight at bantamweight, we have about 135.
Rob, uppercase font.
That's a good one.
Bernard Fashion. Comic Sans.
Versus Douglas Andrade.
Douglas Jessica Andrade.
Yes, that's exactly what I want to say. His nickname is D. Silva, Douglas D. Silva Andrade.
You know what we don't need any more of? Silvas.
Silva anything. Yeah, I totally agree.
Silvas.
There's 5 million Silvas out there, and so D's, doesn't even fit in there, huh? Douglas D.
Rob
Silva.
Montgomery.
So these guys are both veterans. They came in so Andrade D. Silva came into the UFC, lost against Taisugov, a Russian wrestler, 3 years ago. Then he won 2 in a row against Cody Gibson, decent win, decision. Then he knocked out Enrique Barrios, spinning back fist, 7 months ago. And Rob Font has come off of his last 3 fights. He beat Gomez, lost to Lineker in a decision, which Lineker decision I think is a pretty tough feat to go in general. And last beat Chanel, who I think is out of the UFC with TKO. Font is much more of the kickboxer, has good takedown defense, okay submissions. Andrade is definitely more of the jiu-jitsu guy, tries to get it more to the ground, grinding more of a fighter. Okay striking. Font tends to be a little bit longer with a 2.5-inch reach advantage. He's only standing an inch taller than D. Silva, but I really like Font's movement. I really liked him against Lineker. I picked him against Lineker thinking that his movement was actually going to play a bigger role in the cardio, but Lineker turned into the troll level 1000 and fucking pushed through that fight nonstop. So I feel like Font's gotten better ever since that Lineker fight, just because he understood, I need to fight people like Lineker in order to stay in this. I don't think this De Silva has definitely done that. I feel like De Silva's fought much lesser competition. This is going to be a grinding fight. I'm going to think it's going to stay standing, and this is going to turn into a kickboxing match because Font wants to keep it there. And I got Font decision. I don't see the knockout accumulating so much.
I think Rob Font is going to knock him out in round 2.
Ooh.
I think Rob Font is one to watch. That was, to me, the best Lineker that beat him. Lineker looked amazing that fight. It was a great fight.
Punches and kicks at the same time.
He had a great chin, so I'm not worried about him getting knocked out. I'm not really impressed with the Schnell victory, but I do think
agreed.
Rob Font, this is his kind of now or never. I just see him having a little bit better cardio here, a little bit heavier hands. Yep. I think once he clips him and he sees any kind of danger whatsoever, he swarms, and I think that's going to happen. I have Font KO round 2 right now.
I like it. Definitely a Font on the Font bandwagon.
Here's one of the best names to me in the UFC right now.
Speaking of nicknames, we're moving on to the next fight at welterweight bout between Jordan Mean versus Belil, remember the name, Muhammad. Great play on words. Definitely love the way that he put it all together there. Do you see what he did there? How he rolled off of his...
Do you see it? You guys? Do you guys see?
Does everyone get it?
Remember the name, Muhammad? But I like it too. I think it's clever.
It is very clever.
It's better than the
Young
Spartan 3.
Young Gun.
I know, and they almost should have to have it. If they have a registered nickname already, they should almost have to do it like how you have your avatar or something. Like, you want to be Young Gun. But sorry, we already have a Young Gun, so you can be Young Gun 287.
Oh, right. Or the youngest gun.
Or Young Gunite. Where you have to make it a little bit something you don't want. So, yeah, moving on.
So, well, back to the fight. Jordan Means coming off of 2-fight losing streak against Meek in a decision, who I don't know where Meek came out of, and then he lost to Thiago Alves, where he beat the living daylights out of Thiago Alves. He cut Thiago Alves to shit, and Thiago Alves came back with a body kick, which folded to Means, and then a TKO accumulated from that. Jordan Mean, I believe, is half retired and come back already because he's a lifelong martial artist. He got into it when he was like 16, 17. I believe his father was also fighting in the early days, and he just kind of burnt out. He's come back in and not had the best showing, and Muhammad has been fighting top-notch guys. I think Muhammad is
his
not
loss to
nobody.
Like, we're hardcore. We love Luque.
Yeah.
So, and that was the like. I felt like Luque just has a chin of steel. He is one of those Cro-Magnon, like, he's handsome, but he looks like...
Luque just had a horrible showing, though.
He did not look good his last fight, but he didn't look good walking into the ring.
Yeah,
the whole thing. He looked pale. He looked like the Spartan looked in his last fight, even though the Spartan happened to win.
Gotta watch weigh-ins. But Muhammad came in with nothing but good fights against Joe Ban. Joe Ban's a top guy. Then he beat Montano.
I like Muhammad a lot. I think he's a good personality.
I agree. He just beat the Randy Brown bandwagon, which was the UFC show guy from Looking for a Fighter, and Randy Brown had accumulated a couple good wins in a row. Muhammad's wrestling takes over in most of his fights. His striking's good.
I think he stays on the
outside. He stays on the outside. I feel like his fundamentals, I feel like it's a wrestling background. And that's why his striking can look good, is because if he gets hurt, he'll shoot a takedown right away. Jordan Mean is good on the ground because he's lengthy and long. Jordan Mean is a better striker here technically, but he's also a bit taller. But Muhammad does have really good angles and awkward angles. He throws fun uppercuts in there. This is going to be a fight of the night contender for me. I really think that this is going to really showcase both of these guys in all aspects of the fight, standing and on the ground. I tend to side with wrestlers a little bit more just because they can control. Jordan Mean has been controlled when he's been on top position, but you do got to be careful with Jordan Mean because he can submit you out of nowhere. I have Muhammad decision. I'm not going to play this so much because I see a decision, but this is going to be a showcase fight for both fighters, or one guy takes over, and if one guy tends to take over, I think it's going to be Muhammad myself.
I think we remember the name Muhammad. I think he knocks out Mean. Wow. I think it's... I see Mean going down like a Struve kind of knockout. I think this could be the move of the night, brought to you by... Remember the name, Muhammad. And so I have right now Muhammad round 2 knockout. I think he has good punches. I thought he stood in there, and there was times in that fight with Luque that I thought he really gave him a run for his money, even though he got, knocked out. But Luque, I love Luque. I think he has some of the heaviest hands in the division. So I don't think that is something to take lightly.
Right. So moving on to the next fight. This is actually a sneaky fight as well at 185 pounds middleweight. We have Thiago Santos versus Gerald Mirkers. GM3. Mirshar. I think it is something like that. Mirshar. Or GM3 is his nickname. So that's a little bit on the interesting. And Thiago goes by, what is that? Manamania? Moreta.
Uh-oh.
Gotta throw the R's in there.
Needs some glasses. Manta. From afar.
Morella. So, Thiago Santos has definitely fought top caliber. GM3 Mirshart has 2 wins in the UFC. He's coming off RFA. He has a mix between submissions and TKOs. He is 26-8 in his career, so that's an extensive career at 29 years old. He's fought a lot of guys. Thiago Santos, being 33, is 14-5, but Thiago Santos also has a Muay Thai career in Brazil. So he also has been a lifelong martial artist. Santos has fought a bit higher caliber with coming off of his last win to Jack Marshman, which everyone saw TKO coming in that. But the interesting thing with Thiago Santos, which I was on the Thiago Santos bandwagon.
You know what would be a good nickname? The Fresh Maker.
Santos?
Just for anyone.
The Fresh Maker. How could he play it into a theme?
Bring it up and say the Fresh Maker, and bring up Mentos, and then give it to the fighter you're gonna fight against.
Nice.
Everyone would be
Pop
like,
it right in their
"Whoa,
mouth."
that's weird."
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
Santos, I was on his bandwagon against, who is it? The Spartan, Theridoa.
Uh-huh.
I picked him specifically because his striking is so elite and it's underrated there. The thing that scares me with Merchart is the submission game. Is Thiago Santos we saw with Eric Spicely, which Eric Spicely has also been unique in the UFC where I think he was like a 10-1 favorite against Spicely. Came in and got submitted, taken right down and submitted. And GM3 can do
You're gonna
that.
see it again.
It could
That's
happen.
what you're gonna see again.
It could happen.
That's how I see. I see Mearshart
happen.
submission round 1 when they're dry.
Oh, wow.
Submission round 1, very quick. Very quick. Santos is he's not by any means over the hill. If anytime he loses a fight, it's submission.
It's submission.
He just
but
has a really hard time
if he stays striking, he can win. I have Santos TK round 2 because I feel like he's got his act together and has takedown defense. He's at Tata Fight Team, which he's been not his whole career, so that doesn't help because they probably are like, yeah, we'll just hope he stays standing. Which
I also think Santos gets tired, so the submission could come a little later. I like Mearshart in this fight a lot.
I think
I'm going to change it to round 2.
I feel like I'm saying it myself. You got to be careful. We know Santos is submittable, and this is a guy that can submit him.
He usually is a favorite going. People
and
like Santos.
because he's a devastating striker. His leg kicks and body kicks with his legs are just brutal. He knows how to throw a kick, and he's muscular and does it well. I'm going with Santos TKO round 2. I feel like he's improved.
I think Mearshart's stronger once he's up against you than people think he's going to be.
He's a slight favorite. Thiago Santos at minus 135, near even at plus 115 for Mearshart. I could see dog money on this. I think the submission is a valid play on this for Mearshart. He can do it. He's proven it time and time again. This is iffy. I'm not going to play this too much on my DK because not with Santos. Maybe more if we see what Mearshart's line is. I might be more likely to play on him. Tough fight to call. Moving on to the next fight at middleweight, we have Chad Laprise versus Brian Camozzi. I believe this is Chris Camozzi's brother. Been fighting for a long time as well. Brian Camozzi's his debut in the UFC was a TKO loss to Randy Brown. Randy Brown is a guy we talked about earlier who came off of the show. If there was Chris Camozzi minus 0.5, like not a 2.0 because he's not an upgrade of a Chris Camozzi. He's a downgrade, and that's a horrible thing to say. I love you, Chris Camozzi, but the Camozzis are just, I don't know if they're UFC caliber fighters. It's just proven time and time again they can get put on their back and they can get outworked. They have gas tanks, but it's more just to take a beating than anything. Chad Laprise has definitely had a much better career at 11-2. His only 2 losses coming to Ross Pearson in a split decision that was semi-controversial, and he got knocked out to Trinaldo with heavy shots. Those heavy shots are not going to accumulate for Camozzi. Camozzi does not have that type of power. His last win over Gowdy for Laprise came via TKO as well. That Laprise tends to get you with good technical boxing. He overwhelms you with a lot of punches. Okay, takedown defense, can get back up if he needs to. Ground game is Chris Camozzi's ground game also doesn't look the best, but where he tends to do better.
Brian Camozzi,
So, Brian Camozzi does have submission games, but it's been at a much lower caliber with RFA being a feeder league. I just think Laprise has fought much higher caliber, and I think that
Laprise, I agree. He's just all fundamentals, and I don't think Camozzi's flashiness is gonna be anything
gonna
that
catch Laprise.
Laprise is not.
It's
ready
not
for.
Trinaldo power. People don't understand how hard Trinaldo hits. I had Trinaldo in that, but Laprise, you could see it. He got hurt, but Brian Camozzi does not have that type of power.
I agree with you here. I think it's going to be a win by 1,000 cuts.
Agreed, but I see that being also a decision for Laprise, so I have Laprise decision in this. I might play him a little bit just because it is 1,000 cuts.
I might too. Yeah, I agree.
He can score 60, 80 points, please. Moving on to the next fight. At the heavyweight bout, we have Travis Browne versus Olenek.
Browne vs. Olenek.
Olenek just beat Victor Pesta, with an Ezekiel choke. I feel like he fell to his back and threw in the really weird fist in the throat from the bottom. He lost to O'Malley and Nunchuk in one of the worst fights of the year, and then he beat Jared Roshaw in a TKO victory, which that was definitely his unique win. He also beat Anthony Hamilton, who's also a good prospect in the heavyweight division, but also been wishy-washy against Travis Browne, who is lost 3 in a row to Derek Lewis TKO, Bricio Verdum via decision, Cain Velasquez via TKO, beating Matt Mitrione via TKO, and losing prior to that Andrei Arlovsky versus TKO. Travis Browne lives and dies on his shield. Like, he goes out there and has all the attributes to do anything and everything. He's incredibly long. I think he's at Edmonds. Actually, he's splitting his time between Edmonds for this camp. I feel like he's might have done it for a camp or two.
Highest on.
So yeah, I feel like Edmonds is like his home base, but it's not. But he does go to other gyms in the California area. Travis Browne is iffy. Just the amount of head trauma that this guy's taken. I'm always scared with his TKO ability. When he gets TKO'd though, he's usually winning. He was beating
Derek
Lewis, and then he ended up gassing, but it happened in a bunch of his other fights where it's his gas tank. Travis Browne's gas tank fails him, and then he can't lift those huge limbs, and he gets TKO'd because at heavyweight, doesn't matter what you throw.
Olenek has no gas tank either. The only thing dangerous here to me is Olenek is the only guy, I think he might have the longest reach. Travis Browne is used to having this monster reach on people.
Yeah.
And Olenek has an 80-inch reach. That's pretty...
6'7" to 6'1".
Yeah.
6-inch discrepancy, and wow.
I want to see Travis Browne win one. I really would like to see it. I also think Travis Browne could be an amazing Bellator fighter. Amazing.
Champion, yeah.
I really just want to see him win. It could be a total romantic guess on my part. This is nervous for your card.
I agree.
I do think if there's points to be made, it's with Travis, but it could very easily. It's a knockout either way. I think it's an early knockout either way. Both guys are going to come in aggressive. It's going to be a stand-up fight unless one of them gets hurt. You're not going to take Travis Browne down. He has a sprawl like no other. Come on.
Exactly. I think that's what I think. And
How long ago was that last knockout?
Ooh, it was 4 months ago.
Oh.
I know it's not good at all. It's not good at all. I feel like I might just switch to the underdog as we're talking, just because.
I love Travis, but the romantic heart in me wants to pick him, but my head is telling me to go with Olenek here.
I'm switching. You saw me switch it because
I'm switching it too, and I'm going to go with Olenek KO round 2.
I'm going to go Olenek KO round 1 just because Travis Browne.
I'm changing it to round 1 too.
In too early. It's 4 months and he got brutally KO'd.
It was a hard fight.
It's always brutal KOs. Like, yeah, he went limp and then Travis Browne still landed, or Lewis ended up still landing hammer fists when he was on the ground. asleep. So good luck, Travis Brown, but this is we're betting favorite. For the underdog, that's going to be our underdog pick of the night right there. Tell you that. Olenek, he's a 2-1.
With no gas tank, dad bod.
Yeah. So moving on to the next fight, we have Anthony Pettis versus Jim Miller at 155 pounds. This is two guys that have been at it for a while. Jim Miller has been in the UFC for a long, long time. Jim Miller's coming off a decision loss to Dustin Poirier. Before that, he had 3 in a row winning to Takanori Gomi, Joe Lozon in a split decision, and Thiago Alves. These people that Jim Miller's fighting tend to be a little bit older. Anthony Pettis is a little on the younger side. Anthony Pettis, the former champ, has been on a skid. He won one. His last win in his last 5 is only to Charles Oliveira, where Oliveira has been known to give up in fights.
I was just going to sing, baby, give up.
And then his last loss is to the current champion in a TKO to Max Holloway. So respectable current champ.
He only got that fight purely for name. Purely for name.
And then he was supposed to win that fight and then got beat up. So Pettis, it's one of those, for me, the situations of being an Olympic gold medalist and then being like, oh, I don't have to keep winning the gold. I've already gotten the gold. Like, it's hard to stay the champ. It's one of the hardest things to do, is to keep fighting the number one contender. Yeah, it could have happened because he did it with the WEC transition and fought for the belt initially. He was on the Wheaties box, had a big promotional thing.
Cute kid.
Exactly. His brother's in it. Though I do think that the youth and just the gas tank, even though Pettis can get out-grappled and Jim Miller can out-grapple him, I think this decision goes to Pettis. I think the takedown defense is going to be there for him, and he can keep it striking. Maybe it goes to a TKO, but you do have to be careful with the grindability of Jim Miller. Jim Miller will eat a punch to get a takedown and hold you down for all 3 rounds. He's done it multiple times in his career, and this is a perfect fight to do it. If you know, with Pettis, one of his first losses in the UFC to Clay Guida was just wrestling based. Jim Miller can do that. He comes from that lifestyle. So, I got Pettis' decision. I'm staying away from this one. This is way closer than people think.
I'll be all over this fight. I think that moderate favorite Anthony Pettis. To me, this is uneducated.
Right.
For that to happen. This should be a very close fight.
Right.
Jim Miller is a grinder. He's the epitome of a grinder.
Yeah.
He will grind guys out. He has tons of experience. His last fights are brawls. The one thing that never works out in Pettis' favor, I don't like him at 145 at all. I thought he was in wars at 155. I've just felt like he was just in battles against guys that were better in a thick division of monsters. And so then a desperation move to move down. He didn't make weight the last time he weighed in. Jim Miller is a guy that he's... Where are they fighting? Because is Jim Miller cutting a lot of weight too? No, what? They're fighting 155. I feel like Pettis, this is a desperation move going back up in weight to fight Jim Miller. I think Jim Miller is underrated. Yep. Underrated. He's just one of those guys. He comes and he always gives us exciting fights. Anthony Pettis never wins decisions. Ever. Jim Miller's one of those guys that if you're going to see him win, it's by a dirty old grind or maybe a ground and pound finish in the end of the third round. And he's one of those guys that can still bring it at the end of the third round.
Right.
Anthony Pettis does not like that. I got the heavy underdog here. I'm going to go with Jim Miller decision.
I could see that happening.
I would put him all over my draft.
I think that there's no value in Anthony Pettis, and I can see that, and I could switch to Jim Miller. We're going to see what that weight cut looks like by weigh-ins and make my final
Anthony Pettis won't have as hard of a weight cut at 155.
Right, agreed.
But I just think head-wise, where is he? And he's going to go in underestimating Jim Miller. I think it's going to be a lethal mistake. Jim Miller, decision. You heard it here.
So, moving on to the next fight, we have another heavyweight bout with Fabricio Verdum versus Alistair Overeem. Two guys that have been in it. I mean, if you know about MMA, you know about both of these guys. Overeem's last loss, or he's coming off of a win to Mark Hunt, TKO by knees, and he had previously lost to Miocic. He's on a 3-fight winning streak prior to that, knocking out Arlovsky and Dos Santos. Fabricio Verdum coming off of his last win to Travis Brown in a decision. Previous to that, he lost his belt to Miocic, the current champ. And previous to that, Verdum was on a 3-fight winning streak to Kate Velasquez, Mark Hunt, TKO, Travis Brown decision. Top of the barrel. These guys are in the top 3 of the division. Whose striking's better? They're two different striking styles. The Dutch-Danish kickboxing style of Alistair Overeem. This is also the 3rd time that they've encountered each other. So I believe that they're 1-1. So this is a squash match. They both have the submission. Verdum's better on the ground. Overeem is better standing. But in their careers, Overeem has gotten amazing on the ground and won pancrase. And Verdum has beat championship level strikers. So they both are all around great guys all the way around. This is a fight of the night potential. This is not getting out of the second round. I feel like the finish can accumulate anywhere for anyone, but I do think that Verdum is maybe not as chinny. He walked right in that Miocic punch and went limp, but Overeem's done that as well. The longer career is for Overeem in a more striking-based sport. I got Verdum TKO round 1. I could go Overeem tomorrow. I don't fucking know.
I never.
This is a split decision fight.
Ever go with Overeem. Ever.
Yeah.
I'm going with Overeem this time.
Damn.
And this is the reason behind it.
Please.
I just forgot there was more fights above this because I thought this was a main event. Like this is a pretty good fight.
Exactly. This pay-per-view already.
I just, for some reason, the UFC has been propping up Overeem. I think he's getting full Lance Armstrong blood transfusions between rounds. I don't know what's going on. They give him IVs, and if you piss off the UFC, they seem to feed you to Reem. And so there's something that I just think is a little...
conspiracy around.
Yeah, I just think there's a conspiracy around it. Verdum's lippy. He always says something to piss off an entire squad of people. I think that we get to see old school Reem here. I'm seeing like knee, head kick, something crazy, something old school that I haven't gotten to see that Alistair. I love Verdum. I think he's so talented, but that submission game, it's so far long ago since we've seen it. And going to decision with Travis Brown, to me, at this point, is just very questionable to be in the ring with Alistair Overeem. So
ooh, I like that. I could go Overeem.
I'm going Reem right now.
Yeah.
KO round 2.
Exactly, but this is a fight that's going to end in some sort of a finish for sure. So then we go moving on to the next bout at heavyweight as well. We have Curtis Bayliss versus Daniel Omelianchuk. This is definitely much younger heavyweights. They have a much shorter career in the UFC. Bayliss came off of a knee injury to Milstead, and it was switched over. I believe it was like a pot charge that got turned over or something. But Bayliss then beat Cody East, not that big of a heavyweight, and then lost to Ngannou by devastation, and had a lot of TKOs. Bayliss has a lot of power, is very athletic, has a bit of a pudge, honestly, as a heavyweight. He has like a top, Muffman top kind of a thing, and Omelianchuk is definitely your uncle who just gets off of the pub stool and gets in there and gets into fights.
I don't know. I felt like he looked really good at the beginning of the
Timothy Johnson
He just
fight?
got hurt. Timothy Johnson.
Yeah, it's a big guy. Is really athletic as well.
And it was a split decision, and Timothy Johnson seemed huge compared to him.
Timothy
He had
Johnson's,
like 30 pounds on him or something.
Huge guy. But he is wide. I mean,
and then losing to Struve by a Darce choke.
Daniel is as wide as a bus. He's a little fridge, like literally shoulder to shoulder. He's a huge guy.
I just don't know how much I like Bayliss.
I could see that. But I think
I agree. Right now, I'm looking at yours, and I have KO round 2 as well for Curtis. But the more I'm looking at this
could be a decision.
Omelianchuk is a grinder, and I feel like every time the fight starts, I think Should have gone with the Polish guy. I knew better.
Yeah,
I knew better.
exactly.
I always go with the Polish guy.
Right.
And then, he just grinds so heavy at the beginning, and he was going against a guy with the 30 extra pounds, and it showed by the gas tank at the end. But Curtis, he has no gas tank.
Right.
And if anyone can grind out that gas tank, and I remember him being able to take heavy shots from Timothy Johnson.
Yeah,
Heavy
it's true. It's a good point.
shots.
It's a good
I just
point.
think he has a good chin. I think he just grinds him out and just gets a decision, because I don't remember Curtis having a great gas tank. I'm changing it right now. I can't believe it because he's such an underdog.
He is
Such an underdog.
Yeah.
Could go back on that by weigh-ins. Right now I'm sticking with that. If anything big happens, we could probably get in another podcast this week.
Ooh, we might be coming back at you. So be on the lookout for that. Subscribe if you
We'll
haven't
try to get our
already.
final takes out before the fights this week.
Right, there's a lot of fights to cover for sure.
On Twitter, follow us on Twitter at Lesbo and the Bean. Moving on to
the co-main event.
To this, how can this not be the fight of the night?
This could be the fight of the night. There's multiple people in the run-ins, and this, how can it not be? This is also for the interim belt at 185 between Yoel Romero
Robert Whittaker
versus Robert Whittaker, not the gay Jesus. We know what we're getting with Yoel Romero. Ultra wrestling, good take down the fence, ultra athlete. He can throw flying knees and or punches that'll hurt you in the third round, even when he looks like he can't lift his arms. He just comes from a wrestling background. He beat, Cael Sanderson. He beat some of the American legendary wrestlers multiple times where no one else could. Yoel Romero is a freak athlete. The Cuban doctors have been good to him, if you know what I'm saying. So, Yoel Romero, somebody to always be on the lookout for. Technical ability, Robert Whittaker, all the way around, I feel like technically is a better MMA fighter. In the wrestling is where Yoel's gonna end up being better. But when is Yoel used his wrestling in fights? Slim to none. Only when he's
Yoel gives up and lucks out.
Is it lucky when he throws a flying knee?
He's sketchy. Every single one of his fights has something sketchy happen.
two
Eye
stool
pokes
gates.
for days.
Oh, yeah.
Dick kicks.
Oh, yeah.
Like, he's a
Tells
dirty...
the ref to stop. He goes, oh, stop. But he's
Stuff we didn't talk about with the short stoppage going back. We don't even have time to get into it. All them elbows on top of the head.
12 to 6 elbows.
You could see the stitches marked from all them elbows on top of... Okay, go on.
So, if there's anything weird that's going to happen in the UFC, Yoel Romero's a part of it. He has been a part of it. 2 stool
This is a
gates.
5-round fight.
For the interim belt. I do like the ability of striking for Whittaker. Since Whittaker moved up to 185, his chin's been there. He's been able to take hard shots. Whittaker's been on a great winning streak.
He has a better gas tank.
Exactly, and I think
Better
the gas
all
tank's is going to play a role to that. The wrestling is the only way that Yoel Romero wins this. If he takes him down and grinds him out for 5 rounds, he will win that belt. But Yoel Romero doesn't do that. Yoel Romero stays standing with people, even if he's losing.
The more you say that, they're underestimating the power of Whittaker.
I agree.
I'm moving it up to a KO round 2. Whittaker. I love him. I like this kid for the belt.
I feel like he can stay away from Romero most of that time. And
he's going to clip him.
if Yoel Romero loses this, I
Yoel
feel like
gives
Yoel
up.
Romero's going to retire from this
He
sport
doesn't
very
like being
soon.
hurt.
So that's such a fun
Robert
fight.
Whittaker is the most dangerous opponent for Michael Bisping.
He's
I
a
like
slight
him for
underdog
this.
right now. Definitely love him for this.
All right, moving on. We have a very short time to talk about it, but we talk about the bullet enough.
So you guys know that she's fighting Amanda Nunes, the current champion, who's beat some of the legends with Ronda Rousey, Miesha Tate, Raquel Pennington, people that Valerie Shevchenko, people that are the number 3, 4, and 5 contenders. She's already beat, so she's cleared out a division. Honestly, Amanda Nunes has a reason to be the champion. She's done everything right.
Respectable,
Good for her.
badass, deserves to wear that belt right now.
Is it respectable because she did touch Shevchenko on the chin, which is not respectable? You don't make contact.
Agree. But I think Amanda Nunes and her, she's progressed every fight. She's grown. She has cleared out the division. I do think Shevchenko was her hardest fight to date. She did win the first 2 rounds of that fight. I do think Shevchenko has a better gas tank, wider skill set, and the one thing that Shevchenko has that Nunes knows, she's the only chick that has stood in front of her of late that can withstand that first round flurry.
And if we've said anything on this show, is that we both thought if there was 2 more rounds in that first fight, and Shevchenko has said it herself in press conferences, that she would have won if there was 2 more rounds.
The Lioness knows it. I think it's a harder weight cut for her. I think she's the more likely fighter to move up in weight.
Right.
I think her last 2 fights have been breezy compared to Shevchenko's last.
I agree.
That Holly Holmes brawl, underdog on that fight. We've been Team Bullet all day, a day.
We know what we're getting. A camp that revolves around Shevchenko's life, and she's a lifelong martial artist. Where Amanda Nunes is an American Top Team, also a reputable camp. So this is.
I love Amanda Nunes. This is the best 2 in a division fighting.
This is actually going to be a treat. If you guys can get the pay-per-view, watch this.
Is going to be the fight of the night. I think we're going to see a brawl. You have Shevchenko decision.
Decision after 5 rounds.
I think Amanda Nunes' gas tank isn't going to stand up, and we're going to see round 4 finish a lot like round 3 finished for them in their last fight. And I think we're going to see a Valentina Shevchenko finish on top, ground and pound. I don't know who they're going to have coming up to fight her. I don't even know.
Fun. It's going to shake up the division for
I think
good.
that's it. Follow us on Twitter at Lesbo and the Bean for all things Lesbo and the Bean, lesboandthebean.com.
Let's move